Good evening and welcome to Resource PNG. Tonight we showcase an interview with the Western Province Governor, Ati Wabiro, 2 reports on oil search, an INA presentation on the microeconomic effects of natural resource extraction, and our resource news update. But first we join Martin Namarong with the Western Province Governor, Ati Wabiro.
Good evening, viewers. Joining us tonight on Resource PNG is the Governor of Western Province, the Honorable Ati Wabiro. Governor Wabiro, thank you for joining us on Resource PNG.
Thank you very much, and good evening to all the listeners, especially listeners in the Western Province. It's my greatest pleasure to be on this program again.
Now, Governor Wabiro, we start with the hot issue. A lot has transpired on the Octedi issue. What is the Western Province government's view on the matters that have transpired so far?
Well, our view is that the changes have come at the right time. The mine has operated for over 30 years now, and some things have worked, others have not, and it is time now to make changes. So I welcome the change. I've been an integral part of the preparation towards this change.
Now, one of the things with changes, of course, is they bring opportunities and challenges as well. Looking at the opportunities and challenges that are presented to the people of Western Province, what do you see at the moment for the people with regards to the changes to Octedi?
I think that people of the Western Province have to take ownership, and taking ownership also brings responsibility for the challenges. And so I am confident that these changes now have given us, the people of Western Province, the leaders in the Western Province, to regard Octedi as truly our project, which makes us responsible for the challenges that lay ahead with this project, but also to enjoy the benefits. I think that in the past, Western Province people have been left with all the challenges, especially with regards to the environmental problems and difficulties, very little with benefits. And this change has now brought about the opportunity for the people of Western Province to also enjoy maximum benefit. And that's why I, as the provincial governor for Western Province, I'm very, very satisfied.
Now, as you are aware, with a lot of changes, not everyone is happy. Yes. And there are some leaders from the affected communities, the CMC, the Community Mine Continuation Agreement. What kind of assurance can you give to those people who are perhaps afraid of the unknown? What sort of assurance can you give to those local leaders? Yeah,
I'm saddened in a way because, the Prime Minister and I visited Tabubil some time back, and we sat with the same group of leaders. We gave them the opportunity to speak whatever they wanted with regards to the changes. And the Prime Minister and I promised that we will take on board all their concerns. And so I was a bit disappointed, I must say, that when I saw the same group of people going into the media, because we had assured them that issues will be handled. The first will be for us to look at the transfer of the project. Later, we will talk about benefit sharing. So I want to again remind our people, our commitment, the commitment that myself and the Prime Minister made at Tabubil still stand. Western Province will benefit from these changes. I just had a meeting again with the Prime Minister after the Parliament adjourned at 1 o'clock. And he assured me again, the call is going to come from the people of Western Province, through me as the elected leader. We will decide how to share the benefits. So this is a good thing for the people of Western Province, including people living along the Fly River corridors.
These positive sentiments obviously have not necessarily been shared by the current board of PNG STP, who have threatened legal action and some other actions in due course. What is your response to this stance by the PNG STP board?
Yes, I'd like to thank Sir Mekere Morata for the comments he's made, especially with regards to the ownership of benefits. He clearly in the medias, in the media, in the print and other media, he confirmed that the benefits belong to the people of Western Province. The Prime Minister has said the same thing. What I am now asking for is that those benefits to be now transferred to the people of Western Province. So now is the time for us, people of the Western Province, the government of Western Province, to take charge of our own destiny. PNG SDP rightly says the benefits are ours, people of the Western Province, the national government too. So let's have those benefits transferred to us.
Now you're talking about benefits. One of the big chunk of benefits is the money that's parked in the long-term fund.
Yes.
What's going to happen with that? Who's going to be in control of that?
First of all, let me just again comment on the legal challenge that PNG SDP is trying to take.
Fair enough.
I would discourage, I would have questions when people start taking this matter to court, because then, if it is truly for the people of Western Province, then transfer the benefits. Why are you taking, this matter to court? Simply transfer it. Simply arrange and agree to a management arrangement where the true owners of the benefits of Octedi can truly benefit. Now, with regards to the long-term funds which are held overseas, I want to thank PNG SDP for taking good care of these funds over many years. But the time now is to have those changes. My discussions with the Prime Minister is that these funds will continue to be kept overseas, and dividends will come from these investments only for Western Province. This money will not be touched by the national government or anybody. There will be a special board of trustees set to continue to manage these funds overseas, but the dividends, instead of being plowed back into the main principal, will now come back to Western Province to be used for development of programs. So national government I have that assurance from the Prime Minister. And I again reminded him, and he's told me today, Governor, nothing has changed, that money belongs to you. So there's no need to be worried about what will happen with the long-term fund.
We continue this interview after the break. Welcome back. We continue the interview with Western Province Governor Ati Wabiro.
So, Governor, can you just clarify that you're essentially setting up some sort of mechanism, that a funds management mechanism that's going to be owned and operated by the people of Western Province for the benefit of the people of Western Province?
Yes. We have some general idea about how it will work. We're still in the discussion. The first thing has happened. Ownership has been transferred to the state, and we are in the discussion now. Some of that shares will now be transferred back to the provincial government. I'll talk about the details later, but in terms of the funds overseas, the way it's going to be managed, as I said, is there's going to be a board of trustees. There will be a Western Province rep, there will be a national government rep, there will be a rep from the Business Council of PNG, there will be a rep from the Central Bank, and a rep from Singapore. Their job will be to manage this fund, invest it in good investment portfolios, but low-risk investments, and every year they will declare a dividend which will be transferred to the Western Province. At the Western Province level, we will have an entity which I will be chairman of. The money will be received and distributed to our development partners, particularly Octedi Development Foundation. Later on, I'll talk about the new role we see PNG SDP playing. Some of this money will be given to PNG SDP for development. PNG SDP has a very strong project management team, which I want to make use of. But they will be operating under the provincial government, under a new arrangement. So they will be responsible for implementing programs. But the important thing is that all the programs that these two entities, Octedi Development Foundation and PNG SDP, will implement, they will come out of the provincial development plan. Everything is controlled. So we come up with big impact projects, but implemented by reputable entities such as Octedi Development Foundation and Octedi. The mine will continue to be managed by the current team. Managing Director Nigel Parker. There's no change. Everything will be managed by a professional team, the team that has successfully managed the mine for a long, long time. There will also be an independent board. I want to make this point that my interest in all of this is to receive our benefits that rightly belong to us, and to use it for development purpose. National government will take care of how the mine is managed, and also how the long-term fund is managed.
Now, you've mentioned the independence of the board of Octedi.
Yes.
Given that the provincial government will be a shareholder essentially
Yes.
of the mine, will you also have an independent representative on the board?
Yes, it is possible, because we will now be the big one, the only second shareholder. The shareholding will now be between Western Province and national government. Yes, we will nominate an independent board member who will represent our interests. But it is important that we don't have political interference, or we don't appoint people on the board just to represent us. They have to be people who know the mining industry, because Octedi is our golden goose, and it will remain for a long, long time. We must not kill our golden goose, who will continue to lay our golden eggs.
Now, one of our viewers from the Western Province, Lucas Irwin, has sent an email to us about this whole issue.
Yes.
And Lucas wants to know, will Western Province people be able to buy shares in Octedi, local Western Province people, or will they not be possible?
No, it's not possible. It's not a private company. There will only be two shareholders. That's the state and the Western Province. The Western Province shareholding will be divided into four. The Fly River Provincial Government will continue to have shareholding. CMCA, through Octedi Development Foundation, will own shares. And two of our companies, Star Mountain Mine Resource, that's a company belonging to Tabubi landowners, and MROT2, which is a company owned by the provincial government for the people. These are the four entities that will own shares. My discussions throughout the last months, and again today with the Prime Minister, we have confirmed that as soon as all the paperwork is done, we'll start negotiating on the share distribution. And I can tell the people of Western Province, currently the shareholding is the Fly River Provincial Government owns 6%, CMCA through Octedi Development Foundation owns 6%, MROT2, which is a company owned by the provincial government, owns 3%, and the MRSM, company owned by the landowners in Tabu, will own 3%. This is going to increase. We will have more shareholding. I am hoping that through our negotiation, we'll end up with a 40-60 split. We will own 40%, and the national government will own 60%. But the good thing is that on top of our 40%, we will now start receiving dividends from our long-term funds overseas. So the potential for Western Province is huge. If the mine, if the gold and copper prices are good, and our investments are good overseas with the long-term funds, we are looking at operating on a budget of about 1.6, even 2 billion. So the benefits are huge.
Now, Lucas also last, and this will be our final question.
Yes.
For the ordinary person on the ground
Yes.
in Western Province, they want to have opportunities for employment, small business. So he's wondering if OCTEDI will now preferentially provide procurement and support contracts to local Western Province businesses and people,
Yes.
so to be able to participate under this new arrangement of under Mine Life Extension.
Yes. Well, all I can say is that that over 90% of the current subcontractors in Tabu Mill are owned by Western Province people. The employment at OCTEDI is 2,000 Papua New Guinea skilled employers, and many of those are Western Province people. And we will continue to encourage Western Province participation. That is why my government has decided to invest heavily in human resource. We have a program that we are currently co-funding between OCTEDI and Office of Higher Education, where we are sending some of our young people overseas to Australia, to Townsville, to Cairns, to attend TAFE colleges to acquire skills. They can come back and run our own mine. I mean, apart from mine, we have probably the biggest number of gas wells in the west in the country. So that's another potential. We have to now train our people to take charge of these opportunities. Yes, I'm committed to encouraging and supporting financially our young people, our business, and I will make sure that that happens for our people. I didn't just come into politics to be a politician. I came here to bring serious development to our people. And I really believe that God has allowed me to come into politics at this time. Opportunities are now opening up. We're going to deal with big money, and we're going to make sure that the money is used for tangible and sustainable development in the Western Province.
Governor Ati Wabiro, thank you for joining us on Resource PNG.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
More after the break. In this next segment, we take a look at this report on Oil Search's half-yearly results.
Oil Search recently announced a strong operational and financial performance for the first half of 2013, posting a net profit of $113.5 million, a 6% increase from last year. The company also announced an interim dividend payment of 2 US cents per share. Operating cash flow for the first 6 months to June also increased 8% on the first half of 2012 to US dollars 214.3 million. The higher profit figures were due to lower exploration costs from Oil Search's drilling program, which declined to US dollars 33.9 million in the first half of this year compared to US dollars 56.5 million last year. Oil Search tasted success in its exploration activities with the discovery of 100 million barrels of oil at its Mananda 6 field in the Highlands, as well as further discoveries at its Taza field in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. Oil Search's solid performance was consistent with market guidelines issued earlier this year.
Oil Search recorded a strong operational and financial performance in the first half of 2013. Oil and gas production remains solid, declining only marginally from the first half of 2012. Production remains on track to finish the year within our guidance of 6.2 to 6.7 million barrels of oil equivalent. Net profit after tax of US $113.5 million was 6% higher than the corresponding period in 2012.
With such solid performance, the company is now looking at adding value via the PNG LNG project. In its first year alone, the PNG LNG project is expected to add an additional 19 million barrels of oil equivalent to existing production levels. To put this figure into perspective, Oil Search currently produces between 6 to 7 million barrels of oil annually. By 2014 and beyond, production will increase threefold to above 20 million barrels of oil equivalent, largely due to liquids farmed in from the PNG LNG project.
The PNG LNG project, operated by Esso Highlands Limited, made excellent progress during the first half of 2013. We are now at the 90% completion mark and soon expect to start delivering gas from the oil fields to the LNG plant to support commissioning. The project is on track for first deliveries in 2014, and costs incurred to date are consistent with the US $19 billion capital cost outlook provided in November 2012.
Also underlying the emerging significance of Oil Search's LNG business is the increase in gas exploration in the Gulf of Papua and the PNG Highlands. Oil Search has partnered with French oil giant Total to explore its offshore licenses in the Gulf of Papua. Oil Search's Managing Director, Peter Botten, highlighted the significance of this shift from oil to gas earlier this year at the company's annual general meeting.
As I mentioned, this is a really exciting time to be involved in Oil Search. We're undergoing very substantial change, unprecedented growth in our business. Over the next 2.5 years, we'll quadruple our production, quadruple our revenue streams, and a very substantial base for the future of our business and our shareholders in terms of value growth will be further established and delivered. It's a really exciting time. PNG LNG will transform us and transform the country. We're carrying out the largest ever appraisal and exploration program we've ever done in the country. We've had some early success, which gives us confidence around further growth, especially in the LNG world.
The discovery of oil at Mananda 6 and Taza has helped drive enthusiasm in the company to continue further exploration in PNG and in the Middle East. Oil Search has also improved its safety performance for the first half of 2013 with a total injury frequency rate of 2.91 per million working hours compared to a total frequency rate of 3.2 last year. Going forward, Oil Search expects production for the remainder of 2013 to be within guidance range of 6.2 to 6.7 million barrels of oil equivalent. It also expects to invest between $1.9 and $2 billion throughout the course of this financial year. Oil Search's balance sheet remains solid, with US $292.1 million in cash and an undrawn US $500 million revolving facility at the end of June 2013.
More of Resource PNG when we return. Welcome back. Oil Search held its Daffodil Day Golf Challenge on the 23rd of August in both Lae and Port Moresby. The event was aimed at raising funds for the Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society and the Radiotherapy Unit in Lae. We take a look at this next report showcasing the event and how Oil Search has assisted in the health sector.
Oil Search held its Daffodil Day Golf Challenges on 23rd of August in both Lae and Port Moresby. The event was aimed at raising funds for the Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society and the Radiotherapy Unit in Lae. The event is in its 11th year under Oil Search sponsorship, and Oil Search is committed to fund it over the next 3 years. Oil Search has a dedicated Cancer Relief Committee that oversees the Port Moresby event annually. This year, the Port Moresby event received corporate support with 36 teams registered in Port Moresby. Oil Search raised 107,250 kina.
In terms of support from the community, business community has been excellent, and today we have close to probably around 37 teams, which is fantastic, for the event that's been taking place over the last 10 years. And it's interesting to note that some of the business community have been supporting us for the last 10 years, which has been great.
Cancer is one of the largest disease burdens that PNG faces. Treatment of cancer is also very complex, covering the clinical specialties of medical oncology, surgery, radiation medicine, and pathology. The cross-disciplinary approach to treatment also makes it very expensive, thus requiring additional resources that may be difficult to find in the public health system. The Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society has been working closely with the cancer unit at the Port Moresby General Hospital. Since its incorporation in 2002, Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society has been committed to tackling the burden of cancer in Port Moresby through increasing the community's access to awareness, prevention, early detection, treatment, and survival. The Daffodil Cup Corporate Golf Challenge has played a key fundraising role for the Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society. A big achievement was opening a dedicated cancer ward at the Port Moresby General Hospital with the help of donations from the event in 2003. The ward has since been providing chemotherapy and care for cancer patients free of charge, and Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society continues to sustain it. Over the years, the Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society has continued its work through translating cancer information material into Motu and Pidgin for national distribution, producing a print media campaign warning of the dangers of mouth cancer from chewing betel nut with lime, as well as sponsoring the training and support of nurses in cancer care. Port Moresby Cancer Relief Society provides food for patients in the oncology unit and also purchases chemotherapy medication when supplies run low.
It's, at least giving some relief to the people who are affected by this disease. And we've in the past have supported the Cancer Society through admin support, plus also buying of drugs, as well as we bought a cupboard which sort of helps in terms of preparing the treatment and all that for the nurses.
In recognition of this burden of the disease, Oil Search has reached out to the community over the past decade to lend a helping hand. Oil Search's General Manager for Government and External Relations, Hirea Aopi, has been at the forefront of raising funds for cancer through the Daffodil Golf Challenge. He is very optimistic about the impact of Oil Search's support towards cancer relief.
Well, I hope that the impact it's making is, at least giving some relief to, the people who are affected by this, disease. And we've in the past have supported the Cancer Society through, admin support, plus also buying of drugs, as well as we bought a cupboard which sort of helps in terms of preparing the treatment and all that for the nurses.
Meanwhile in Leh, there was also a good turnout by the business community, with the event raising 210,000 kina. All funds raised from the Leh event will enable the PNG Cancer Relief Society to help patients at the National Cancer Treatment Centre at Angao Memorial Hospital in Leh. The National Cancer Treatment Centre is the national referral centre for patients. Therefore, patients come from all over PNG. Cancer is a major health problem. Estimated cases range from between 10,000 to 15,000 per year, of which only 2,000 to 4,000 seek treatment at PNG hospitals. The National Cancer Treatment Centre registers nearly 400 cases per year. The centre provides radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Surgery is done in individual provincial-based hospitals. Common cancers treated are cervix, which is 45%, mouth 35%, breast and other cancers including children's 20%. The National Cancer Treatment Centre receives referrals from all over PNG. Oil Search's commitment to Papua New Guinea's development goes beyond cancer charity. Oil Search has taken the lead in delivering public health solutions through the Oil Search Health Foundation. In addition, the company is using its experience in building major oil infrastructure to deliver major infrastructure projects and is helping out to build the nation way beyond the oil and gas fields.
An INA presentation, that's next. Stay tuned. In this next report, we find out the microeconomic impact on the natural resources sector, particularly what happens to the broader national economy when money from the resource sector gets pumped into it.
Many pundits associated with the resource sector often wonder what happens to the billions that get pumped into Papua New Guinea's economy. Furthermore, they are often at the receiving end of accusations that the resource sector doesn't have a national footprint and a broader local impact. To understand the dynamics of wealth created by the resource sector, the Central Bank of Papua New Guinea commissioned a study led by the International Monetary Fund. The International Monetary Fund study looked at the macroeconomic impact of the resources sector. The researchers asked a simple question: what happens to the broader national economy when money from the resource sector gets pumped into it? The study examined how much money was entering government coffers and where that money was spent or saved. What they found explains the reality on ground in Papua New Guinea in terms of the effects government spending has on the economy. Because the government's key areas of expenditure are in health and education, those areas have seen an expansion. Thus, businesses supplying goods and services to the education and health sectors have fared relatively well due to government demand. Another recent case in point is also the growth of the construction sector due to government demand created by infrastructure projects. One of the authors of the report was Dr. Jan Gottschalk. Dr. Gottschalk recently presented a seminar highlighting the expenditure of resource rent. Dr. Gottschalk highlighted how the Somare government's decision to save money in trust funds had in fact buffered the country from the effects of the global financial crisis. He also touched on how the Sovereign Wealth Fund could be a useful means of storing surplus funds in order to ensure price stability and reduce the risks of inflation and currency appreciation. But it is not always easy for governments to save.
At least part of your mineral revenue inflows is politically a very difficult task. Once kind of the pots become large, it makes it a very tempting target to start spending it, especially when you see all of these needs around. And from that viewpoint, I'd say that the fiscal policy in PNG has been fairly stability-oriented for approximately 10 years. I guess this period covered by these 2004-8 and then the 2008-12 medium-term fiscal strategy, that was a period of stability, of I guess what the IMF would call responsible fiscal policy, and pulling that off for 10 years is indeed quite an achievement. That probably there has been a turnaround. I guess we see with the 2012 budget and much more so with the 2013 budget that fiscal policy now has shifted towards spending.
Recent government expenditure on construction, for instance, has created demand for labor and goods associated with construction. However, when spending eases, demand is reduced and the labor and goods are shifted into other sectors of the economy. Papua New Guinea has had a recent experience with the demand for labor, goods and services associated with the PNG LNG project, which causes prices to rise. Even the exchange rate rise linked to the PNG LNG project has had a detrimental impact on agricultural commodities such as copra. There is a risk of a similar situation once the government starts receiving LNG revenues, and there is a fiscal expansion. Increased government expenditure leads to competition with the private sector for the same basket of resources, and there is a crowding out of the private sector. This prevents private sector development in many areas that PNG currently lags behind in, for example, tourism, agriculture, and manufacturing. This is basically because the costs of input into these sectors are higher when government demand creates inflationary pressures. In theory, excess government revenue that is usually stored in trust accounts in commercial banks is mopped up by the central bank. However, according to the researchers, central bank intervention to moderate economic volatility may not always solve the problems.
Natural resource inflows in this scenario, they are ultimately used to expand fiscal spending. So government demand goes up. And if overall supply is more or less given, and that's an issue I'll come back to in a second, but let's assume that if overall supply is given, the only way for the economy to find back to its equilibrium is that demand from elsewhere has to give. And in this scenario here, if the government, if the central bank wants to do that, they have to reduce overall demand until the reduction in private sector demand just offsets the increase in government demand. So at the end of the day, you're bound to end up with a crowding out of the private sector. And that's what I meant earlier, that the Bank of PNG does not have a magical wand to make the real appreciation disappear in a costless way. Yes, it can make the real appreciation disappear, but at a cost. The cost is a tight monetary policy stance, and that will crowd out the private sector. And I'm not sure that this is indeed your preferred policy stance, an expansionary fiscal policy accompanied by a tight monetary policy stance.
To ease the pressure on the central bank, a mechanism such as the Sovereign Wealth Fund can play the role of mopping up surplus funds. Applying that economic principle to the Papua New Guinea context is not as straightforward, according to Dr. Koschak. Given the fact that the government is borrowing a lot to fund infrastructure projects,
government has got a duty.
The interest earned on the Sovereign Wealth Fund investments may not be as large as the interest paid on debt servicing. Dr. Koschak therefore suggests that perhaps spending on infrastructure projects that facilitate growth and development may indeed be a form of saving. A caveat, though, is that spending on infrastructure without maintaining these assets may be unsustainable in the long term.
And again, in principle, you can use public investment to counteract the negative effects of Dutch disease on the tradable sector, or let's say on productivity growth in general in the economy. You could also, I think, very fairly argue that public investment represents a form of savings as well. In a sovereign wealth fund, you save by building up financial assets. If you invest, you save by building up your public capital stock. That very well, you could very well argue that the government of PNG has chosen to save pretty much all of the expected mineral revenue inflows or LNG revenues, and it has chosen to do so by building up the public capital stock. There are then, of course, issues related to the implementation and also to the sustainability of that capital stock.
Dr. Koschak warns against political leaders being overly optimistic about the future, leading to excessive spending in expectation of more good times ahead. The cyclical nature of commodity prices means that one may be overly optimistic and fail to see buzz cycles.
Resource PNG News, that's next after the break. Not 30 years, not 30,000 years, but 30 million years ago, when below the surface of the Earth, hard molten rock was being pushed up to the surface from the Earth's core. Mount Fubilan was formed when this hot rock lifted the Earth's crust as it moved upward. This hot rock contained copper and gold, which settled within the rock structure when it cooled down. Mount Fubilan gets its name from the stone axe heads, or fubi, which were derived from the volcanic rock the local Min people found there. The Min believed this mountain was also the burial ground of the brother of their goddess Afek. Afek's brother was the equivalent of the Greek god Hades, keeper of the underworld. The Min people believed that when they died, their spirits went to Fubilan. In the 1970s, the American copper giant Kennecott explored the region around Mount Fubilan, referred to as the Star Mountains. Kennecott found copper and gold at Fubilan, but a disagreement with the PNG government led to Kennecott's exit. The PNG government then took over responsibility for the future of the mine and set up the Oktedi Development Company for that purpose. Eventually, the government found development partners to invest in the project. The project investors were led by the big Australian Broken Hill Propriety, BHP. In 1981, work began for the mobilization of equipment and workers for the development of the Oktedi mine, and by 1983 the mine was operational. As with any industrial activity, the mining operations at the Fubilan mine pit and Folomian mill produced enormous waste material in the form of waste rock from the mine and tailings from the mill. It was originally envisioned that the waste would be captured at the Okma Tailings Dam. However, the failure of the tailings dam in 1984 led to the direct discharge of waste at the Harvey Creek waste dump and into Sulphide Creek. Waste from Harvey and Sulphide Creeks enter the Okmani River and flow into the Oktedi River, also known as Waitri and Alice River. In the 1990s, the Yongum people of the Waitri or Alice River began complaining about the deposition of the tailings in the lower Oktedi floodplain. Tailings from the Oktedi mine formed a sterile level of sand in the floodplain, making it difficult to grow food. In addition, pyrite material in the tailings produced acid rock drainage that caused rainforest dieback. The Yongum tribe, led by Rex Dagi, took BHP to court in Melbourne, Australia. The anthropologist Dan Jorgensen, who has studied the political economy of the Oktedi mine, recently said that whilst the Oktedi mine had provided enormous benefits for the people of the Star Mountains region, including Telefomin, downriver, the people suffered an ecological catastrophe that unfolded as a result of the mine operations. Rex Dagi was joined by Gabia Gagarimabu in the case against BHP. This brought together the people of Upper, Middle and Lower Fly regions. Eventually, in the mid-1990s, the case was settled out of court and compensation was paid into the Alice River Trust and the Heduru Trust. The state enacted the Oktedi Revised 8th Supplemental Agreement, commonly referred to as RESA. This piece of legislation banned litigation in foreign courts on matters related to activities in PNG. In 2001, the then Prime Minister, Sir Mikera Marauta, and his Mining Minister, Sir Michael Samare, negotiated the Community Mine Continuation Agreement, CMCA, with the people of Western Province. BHP exited from Oktedi and divested its shares into the PNG Sustainable Development Programme. BHP and the government signed a master agreement that was incorporated along with the CMCA into a piece of legislation known as the Oktedi Mining 9th Supplementary Agreement. In 2007, the CMCA had to be reviewed as Oktedi Mining Limited had exceeded its environmental predictions stated in the agreement. The compensation was increased to over 1 billion kina to be paid to the people of Fly River. The women and children of the CMCA region have also received special recognition since the 2007 review, with between 10 to 20% of the total benefit package allocated for women and children. This again is another Papua New Guinean innovation, as it is the first time anywhere on Earth that a specific portion of the resource revenue has been allocated for women and children. In 2011, when the exit of Inmet Mining of Canada from Oktedi, the company became 100% owned for the benefit of the people of Papua New Guinea, with its two main shareholders being PNG SDP and the government of Papua New Guinea. In 2012, 156 communities along the Okmani, Waitri and Fly Rivers signed up to the CMCA Extension Agreement to allow the mine to operate until 2025. The CMCA-EA is Oktedi's social license to operate the mine under mine life extension, just as the CMCA has allowed it to operate since 2001. These agreements are unique globally and represent a Papua New Guinean innovation on conflict resolution, on matters of resource extraction and environmental sustainability. On the 18th of September this year, Parliament passed the Oktedi Mine Continuation 10th supplementary agreement, taking over 100% ownership for the mine and removing BHP Billiton's immunity from prosecution for environmental liabilities. Ok Tedi has now been in operation for over 30 years. The benefits to the nation have been massive. Exports from Ok Tedi have contributed 14% of PNG total gross domestic product. Ok Tedi has paid over 8 billion kina in levies, fees and taxes to the national government and an additional 1.7 billion kina in dividends to the government. PNG SDP has received since 2002 over 5.5 billion kina in dividend payments. Over the 30-year period as well, Mount Fubilan was reduced from an upthrust peak into a concave pit. Over 1.8 gigatons of mine waste material have been discharged into the Okmani, Ok Tedi and Fly rivers. The major impact of this has been riverbed aggradation, floodplain inundation, acid rock drainage and loss of fish biomass due to habitat smothering. Fish catches have declined by 90% in the Ok Tedi River and 60 to 70% in the Middle Fly. Under mine life extension, 190 million tonnes of tailings will be produced and about 562 million tonnes of waste rock. Ok Tedi has presented many opportunities and challenges for the people of Western Province and Papua New Guinea. The financial rewards have been great and so have been the environmental costs. That ends this edition of Resource PNG. If you have any comments or queries, do email us on this address, resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. Or to find out more, check MTV online, that's www.mtv.com.pg, and go to our Resource PNG page. Or you can check our page on Facebook. Thanks for your company. Bye for now.